Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
All right, it's Tuesday night in Tuscaloosa, and you know what that means, TITV. Good evening and welcome into the latest edition of Tider Insider Television, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports, alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris. Well, as we've been talking about the entire month of June, Alabama football recruiting has heated up. On Friday, Foley wide receiver Perry Thompson, 6'3", 205 pounds, became Bama's first commit for the 2024 cycle. More on him later. And over the weekend, the Crimson Tide added 2 2023 verbal commits to the class, giving Alabama a total of 7 now for 2023. And listen, let's start with this guy, because according to 24/7 Sports Composite, he's a second-rate player in the state of Alabama from that powerhouse Thompson program in Alabaster, 3-time consecutive Class 7A state champions. And there's no doubt about it, Tony Mitchell is a 5-star talent. As a defensive back, can play corner, can play safety, can play nickel, can really do it all. And that's Brayson Hubbard there. So let's go ahead and talk about Brayson Hubbard, who is a young man out of Ocean Springs, Mississippi, who was previously a Southern Mississippi baseball commit. But he's an outstanding athlete. You see him at quarterback. Rodney, he's a guy that came to camp at Alabama, really kind of under the radar, which is hard to do in this day and age, but like I said, was committed to Southern Miss to play baseball. Nick Saban and company saw him. They liked him. They made him an offer. He took it. He's going to wind up playing defensive back at Alabama.
Really incredible athlete. You saw the speed there, Gary. Like you said, he's been a quarterback in high school, really hasn't played the safety position, but did come to camp, showed his athleticism, his ability to move, his ability to run, change of direction. All of those things are very impressive. Comes back for a second camp and gets the offer, makes the commitment here this past weekend. Just a tremendous athlete, Gary, and I think that's really, when you see that athleticism, that's what Alabama's kind of projecting him in terms of being a safety, being able to utilize that great athleticism that he has and the speed.
Reminds me of the Coach Bryant days. You know, he would sign all those quarterbacks knowing that many of them wouldn't play quarterback, but they were always great athletes. You can put them at safety, you can put them at corner, you can put them at wide receiver. This guy fits the bill. Listen, now that Alabama has offered and he's accepted a commitment to an offer from the Crimson Tide, watch other schools jump on board and try to get him to take a look at them. But he seems solid in the Crimson Tide. Possibly could play baseball, but he's saying right now his focus is on Alabama football, and why not? All right, now let's get to Tony Mitchell, because this is a guy is a 5-star in-state prospect. I said a little bit about him earlier. You're going to see the talent here on the screen and the ability to attack the ball. Good tackler, physical, can play in space. Again, Rod, he's the second-rated prospect according to 24/7 Composite. Peter Woods, his teammate, is going to commit here on July the 8th. That's got to help Alabama with Woods. But let's focus on Tony Mitchell, because he's got all the tools that you need to be a defensive back at the college level.
I really like his versatility. Like, he played corner. He's played a lot of corner in high school. He can play the star position, can play the safety. He's a guy that a lot of people list him at 6'2", 180 pounds. He's about 200, 205. He's bigger than that. So he's a guy that's really physical. He's a great tackler in space. You know, a very physical player overall. Has really good ball skills, Gary. Great coverage skills. I think he's, again, he can play corner, certainly could do that, but his versatility to play the star, to play safety, makes him really, really valuable.
All right, Rod, you had been saying the entire month of June, listen, camps, official visits, this kind of sets the stage. July is a dead month, a dead period, and a lot of these coaches are going to get some vacation time, including Coach Saban, but there could still be more commitments coming soon for Alabama.
Yeah, I think we may be waiting for one tonight, actually. You know, we'll see what happens. Several guys on the docket to make decisions. Malik Benson's one of those guys, an outstanding junior college wide receiver. He's supposed to make a decision on July the 5th, and several other guys scheduled throughout the month. You mentioned Peter Woods. Right now, I think Peter Woods is going to Clemson. You know, again, it's a July commitment. A lot of things can change for any of these guys. Peter Woods, an elite player in this state. You really don't want to lose him, but right now, I think Clemson's the favorite for sure. And then also Malik Bryant's an outstanding player, a great linebacker prospect from IMG Academy that'll make a decision later on in July. We could go on and on and on. There's a list of players that are going to make decisions next month. Alabama's in the mix with a lot of those.
Yeah, I might want to keep an eye on Jefferson, the junior college wide receiver from out of Pearl River over there in Mississippi.
Yeah, actually, he runs like a wide receiver for 4'3", 40. Guy that's going to be a linebacker on this level. He's about 6'1", 6'2", 220 pounds. Gary, it's the speed. just absolute speed of Justin Jefferson that makes him really a tremendous player down there at Pearl River Community College in Poplarville, Mississippi.
Yeah, you're seeing some video of him in the weight room right now. Look at that. Look at that box jump. You know, I was watching some video and pictures of him today, and long-armed, extremely athletic, like you said, and can just flat out fly. I mean, you know, based on Alabama's history, those long arms I'm talking about put together too. When they offer a junior college player, it's not that often, but when they do, they're counting on the guy coming in and making an instant impact. So, again, keep an eye on Justin Jefferson. Something could be happening soon with him. All right, let's turn our attention now to coach talk and get away from football for a moment. Alabama had one player drafted in the NBA draft this past Thursday night. J.D. Davison was taken by the Boston Celtics on Thursday evening with the number 53 pick. That's a second-round pick, no guaranteed money. But we know how athletic he is. In just one season with the Crimson Tide, he had 6 starts and played in 33 games and flashed his great athletic ability, still kind of to learn to play the game at the point guard position. But President of Basketball Operations for the Boston Celtics, Brad Stevens, says that Davison brings a lot to the table with that athleticism and potential.
Has the ability to get inside the paint and make plays, and has some things that he'll have to improve on, but has a lot of physical tools, a good competitor, and obviously I think played, you know, in a really good program for really good coaches.
All right, good for JD. Again, listen, could he have come back and raised his stock? Probably so, but this was a decision I think was pretty much made for him. He made for him and for his family coming out of high school. He only planned to be one and done at Alabama. So for all the people that are being critical and saying he should have come back, I just don't think that was ever in his plans. All you can do now, and we've seen it, you know, years ago with Mo Williams, a second-round pick, played 15 years in the league. Herb Jones, a second-round pick last year, was an all-rookie team member. Is hope that as a second-round pick, he can make the Boston Celtics. He's only 19 years old and can still have a very successful NBA career.
Yeah, hopefully he's in a situation, sounds like he is, where they have a lot of confidence in him, developing him. I think that's the key right now, Gary, is he develop and be a good fit for where he is.
Yeah, great organization. They played for the NBA championship before losing in 6 games to the Golden State Warriors just a couple of weeks ago. All right, also from the NBA, Keon Ellis did not get drafted, but he signed a 2-way contract with the Sacramento Kings. He'll be in the G League for the good portion of the season and can spend no more time than 45 days with the NBA team. Ellis was one of the SEC's top defensive players and all-around athlete. Remind some people of Latrell Sprewell. If he had the kind of career Latrell Sprewell had, that would be okay, other than the incident with P.J. Carlesimo. Also, Jaden Shackelford signed with Oklahoma City Thunder as a free agent. He is reportedly an Exhibit 10 deal. This is essentially a 1-year minimum contract that allows the team to convert them to 2-way contracts as long as it's before the regular season. Shaq, of course, had a great 3 years at Alabama. Well, still to come on Tider Insider Television, Alabama softball got a commitment this past week, and we will tell you about the player right here from in the state of Alabama. And top quarterbacks were at the Manning Passing Academy last week, working on their own games and helping out high school players. One of the counselors right there, Bryce Young, from UA, the Heisman Trophy winner. We'll have more when we come back. And we'll be getting to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, the phone number, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. Or you can email us at TITV@WVUA23.com. Or you can even tweet at us using the hashtag TITV. We'll be right back with the show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide. Tider Insider TV will return after this break. And welcome back to this edition of TITV for Tuesday night, June 28th, sponsored by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Well, this past weekend, Bryce Young and other top college quarterbacks were part of the Manning Passing Academy down in Thibodaux, Louisiana. Young and University of Florida quarterback Anthony Richardson were among the instructors for the younger players, the high school players at the academy. It helps bring out players and help them reach their potential. Plus, you're working with the Mannings. My gosh, you got the whole family down there, Archie, Peyton, Eli Cooper, and, of course, Arch Manning, who is now committed to Texas. Here's Bryce Young from the camp talking about NIL and how at Alabama it's not something that they focus on that much, and he certainly doesn't think it's an issue in the locker room.
NIL is something that's great for us to benefit from. It creates a lot of opportunities for us, but it's stuff that isn't what's most important. For us, we haven't really hasn't come up in conversations. It's not this big thing that's going around the locker room of what's going on. We're all there to work. We all understand what's most important is the team and our success. So it's not really a big thing for us.
All right, let me bring Rod in. We had this conversation on my radio show yesterday about NIL and what it was intended to be. And I think at Alabama is treating it in the spirit of what it was supposed to be, name, image, and likeness. Players capitalizing on that at Alabama. They're not using it as, let's just put together as much money as we can and go out and entice high school players to come to Alabama. Now, is that a factor in NIL with these high school players? It certainly is. But I think for Alabama, Rodney, the pitch remains the same. We're going to develop you for a career on and off the field. You're going to be a better person because you were part of the program. You're going to have a chance to win national championships, play in the NFL, get a degree, all those things. Now, again, NIL is part of the landscape. But I think Alabama, while it's trying to do it the right way and understand that it's something you have to deal with, I don't think the pitch for recruiting at Alabama has changed that much.
Not at all. I mean, I really think NIL is something that you discuss, something that you certainly have to cover. I tell you the issue, though, Gary, is the way different schools are using it. When you're bringing kids in for visits here, and then when they go on other visits, a lot of those schools are using it differently. So I think what Alabama's going to have to do is to address it, continue to address it more so because of the way these other schools are recruiting. I think a lot of these top prospects call back and they say, hey, listen, this school's saying I'm going to have this opportunity. So I think this is something that, again, it's kind of new. So there's a lot of adjustments that are being made to it. But you're right. I mean, Alabama, the way they present it, it's the same recruiting pitch.
All right, Jalen Rashada, a quarterback that committed to Miami reportedly, and he was somebody that represents him and is involved with him, said that he got $9.5 million for the Hurricanes, turned down $11 million from the Florida Gators. Florida's cooperative and NIL folks are saying that's not the case, but still, that just seems ridiculous to me. We know about the Tennessee recruit getting supposedly $8 million to go to Tennessee. That's just crazy. I don't see any way, Rodney, that can be sustained over time.
Yeah, listen, I think, following it the way I do, I think we're going to see more of that out of certain schools. Miami, I think they're really utilizing it. I think they're going to utilize it very strongly in this recruiting class, kind of similar to what Texas A&M did in the last recruiting class. So I think you're going to see a few more schools do that. And, how does that really impact Alabama? When you look to the West, you've got Jimbo Fisher. You've got Texas, who's using the NIL quite a bit. To the North, you've obviously got Tennessee, who's really heavily involved in it. You've got some really strong recruiters at Georgia, obviously, with Kirby Smart and the Dabo Swinney there. You got Billy Napier now down at Florida. Now you've got Mario Cristobal in South Florida. So Alabama's kind of surrounded. So it's really made it, I think, a little bit more difficult. But I think Alabama still is in position to, with so many really good prospects, to find the kind of kids that fit what they want. So I think Alabama's still going to do very well.
Yeah, big picture, I mean, Alabama is still Alabama. And Alabama is active in putting together a collective. Again, it's just not as focal of a point for recruiting as it is at some schools with UA. And really, there's been no need for it to be that to this point. All right, let's move on. Central Phoenix City outfielder Kristen White commits to the Crimson Tide softball program, according to the Central Phoenix City softball Twitter. She's the first player signed with an SEC school directly out of that high school and the second to play overall in the SEC. During a high school career with the Red Devils, she played a total of 136 games, scored 185 runs, got 240 hits, 103 RBI, and had an overall batting average of .566. Tremendous athlete. Well, still to come here on TITV, 3 Alabama football players were named to the 2022 Walter Camp Preseason All-American team. We'll have that for you when we come back. And up next, your phone calls, emails, and tweets. Call now, 205-348-9882. Phone lines are open, 205-348-9882. There's the email address. You can even tweet at us if you use that hashtag TITV, so we'll see it. And we'll be right back with your phone calls and more on TITV. 3 Alabama football players have been chosen to the 2022 Walter Camp Preseason All-American team. Linebacker Will Anderson Jr., defensive back Eli Ricks, who's yet to play a game at Alabama, and quarterback Bryce Young. Anderson and Ricks earned first-team honors on defense, and Young earned first-team honors on offense. 50 players total named to the team, which is composed of 25 players on both the first and second team squads. So just the norm in Alabama. A lot of All-Americans preseason and postseason. All right, phone lines are open, interestingly enough. If you want to give us a call, 205-348-9882, you can get through. All right, we had a caller that called in, couldn't stay on the line, but Rodney, we mentioned this earlier with Peter Woods. You think he might wind up committing to Clemson, but he wanted to know, do you think ultimately he could be swayed to Alabama because of Tony Mitchell and, of course, a couple of Fagans and Alexander from last year, that pipeline from Thompson to Alabama? Ultimately, do you think that'll be the difference?
Well, I think certainly anytime you have those kind of connections, they're very helpful. Right now, again, I just think today, between today and July 8th, could it change? Certainly could. But I think if I was making a prediction right now, I would say that he's going to commit to Clemson. Now, again, a lot of things happen between July and December that could change minds. I'm not saying he would change his mind, Gary, but you followed this a long time as well. Sometimes things happen and kids have a change of heart. But I think right now, if I had to guess, make a prediction, I'd say Peter Woods to Clemson.
Yeah, I guess if that happens, you got to give Dabo Swinney and company credit because, 6 months ago it was just a given that he would commit to Alabama. But again, that announcement coming up on July the 8th. All right, let's get to an email. And the email question of the day is brought to you by KDM Services. KDM Services, serving your family like our family. All your heating and air conditioning needs, call KDM Services. What can you tell me about Foley wide receiver Perry Thompson? Is he Julio 2.0? That's from Happy in Calera. Well, he's going to be compared to Julio Jones, let's just be honest, because of the fact that he's from Foley High School. He's 6'3", he's 200-plus pounds. Now, those are big shoes to fill. But listen, for him to still be just a rising junior going into his junior year, to already have an offer from Alabama, a committable offer, tells you what Nick Saban and this coaching staff think of Perry Thompson.
It does. It really does. Again, you mentioned his size at the outset. Gary, 6'3", 200 pounds. He's only a sophomore going into his junior year. His catch radius is unbelievable, and he has really good hands. So I think he's only going to get better and better and better, and you're going to see his stock. By the time he's a senior, he's going to be a really highly rated player.
All right, thanks for that email. Let's get to a phone call now. CB with us right here in Tuscaloosa, our good pal. Hey, CB, what's up, man?
Hello, gentlemen. Mr. Harris, has anybody said you're growing old? You ain't heard that story, have you?
Well, I've been told that. I don't know. I hadn't heard the whole story, but I guess we'll have to say that for another time.
Happy late birthday, I was janking with you. I tell you, I'm kind of worried about this recruiting, not right this minute, but that money talks, and you know what walks. So we'll just have to see. What do y'all think? Really?
Well, it's real. There's no doubt about it. All right, listen, Alabama has so much to offer. We've been saying this. 2 years ago, all things being equal, Alabama's going to get most of these players that they seriously pursue. Now everything could be the same, and you could have another school come in with one of these big so-called quote-unquote NIL offers, which is basically just a financial incentive to attend that school, and it can knock Alabama out of the running. There's no doubt that NIL is real and is going to have to be dealt with both positively and negatively.
Yeah, it really is, and I've said this. I think it's going to be a wild and woolly recruiting process. I think, I really don't know how coaches are going to deal with it when you get down the last few days in December before the early signing period, or they're late in February, Gary, when guys are making their decisions, and all of a sudden you've got a guy committed, and you've had him committed very strongly, and then somebody comes in and offers him a really big deal. Because listen, those big deals, they're not going to swing until late.
Yeah, I still say, I don't know who is going to do what, but somebody needs to do something. There's going to have to be some regulations on this NIL going forward. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back with more phone calls and emails right after this. 205-348-9882. Give us a call. Welcome back to Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Let's head back out on the phone lines at 205-348-9882, and that's where we find BT right here in Tuscaloosa. BT? Sounds like BT is gone. All right, let's get to an email. Let's get to one of our emails. Do we have one ready to go? Can you talk about the status of Eli Ricks? That's from Megan in Tuscaloosa. Well, everything seems to be cleared up as far as that driving incident that he had over in Mississippi. And from a football standpoint, Rodney, You know, he only played that 1 year at LSU, but he's already been named to preseason All-American teams. He's got prototypical size for a corner. He's projected to be a top 10 overall pick in the National Football League draft. So I would say expectations are pretty high for Eli Ricks.
Yeah, they are. And, you know, when you look at him physically, again, the injury that he suffered last year, I think he had some shoulder issues there at LSU. And before he transferred here, he lost a lot of weight. I know that he was certainly working very hard to put that weight back on, regain his strength, Gary. I think the spring certainly helped him in terms of learning the differences between the defense that he played in and then the defense here at Alabama. So, yeah, there's a lot of high expectations for Elias Ricks. He was a five-star player coming out of high school. So he's a guy that's certainly going to, you know, they name him an All-American, but here's the thing. He's competing at one of those corner spots. You've got Kool-Aid McKinstry. You've got Kareem Jackson. Both those guys started in the championship game. And, you know, they named Elias Ricks, who hasn't even started a game here, an All-American, but he certainly has that ability.
All right, we're going to try to get to BT real quick. BT, I don't know if you hung up on us. What's up, man?
No, I didn't hang up.
All right, what you got?
Want to do it, dear.
What you got?
Asked about the recruiters. We signed, and that's all I want to do. Ask about how they go do for the team.
All right, BT. Well, the new guys are you know, going to be, well, there's a number of them they expect to make an impact, whether it's through the transfer portal, the guys they brought in, or through that freshman class. Rodney, we only got about 25 seconds, but I think there are probably going to be 10 or 12 of these first-year players that you see playing on Saturdays.
And a lot of those guys that came in this spring will certainly help. I think, Gary, the ones you really have to look at are the grad transfers, or like Tyler Steen was a grad transfer, other transfers, the receivers, whether we talked about Elias Ricks at corner, Tyler Harrell, the receiver, Jermaine Burton at receiver, Jahmyr Gibbs at running back. All of those guys, BT, I think will make major contributions.
All right, thanks for the phone calls and emails. We'll be back after this. All right, this is Tuscaloosa native David Robertson batting for the Cubs in a 14-5 rout against the Pirates. Why is that noteworthy? Well, Robertson, a pitcher, had appeared in 695 games and never had an at-bat. He's facing a position player here because the game was a rout, and he still struck out. But he got up there, he got an at-bat. Of course, he makes his money with his arm. There he goes down on you know, 3 swings there, but good for him. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of TITV. Remember, if you missed it or you want to watch it again, you can catch a replay tonight at 10:30 or find it anytime at WVOA23.com. We've been presented by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. We're going to leave you tonight with Alabama wheelchair basketball wrapping up their camps last week here in Tuscaloosa. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching. Have a good week, and we'll see you again next Tuesday on TITV.